Hello, my name's Leigh Whitehouse and I'm your independent candidate ahead of the general election on Thursday the 4th of July here in the place that I call home, Wyre Forest. Now, I've lived in Wyre Forest all of my life. I've lived in Kidderminster and Starport, and I have friends and family that live in Kidderminster, Starport, Bewley and the rural areas. I'm 37, I have 3 children, all under the age of 10. And my background is in policing, so I worked for the police in homicide investigation for 10 years before I moved into the local authority back in around 2016, 2017. And I've been elected as a councillor on Wyre Forest District Council here in Kidderminster since 2019, and literally helped hundreds and hundreds of people with a large number of inquiries. And I guess that's what's brought me on this journey. I've found out that I enjoy helping people and leaving no stone unturned, and really getting to the core root of their issues and looking to not only fix it temporarily, but to put a longer term solution in place to ensure that the issues that I get reported to me are dealt with in the longer term, and they aren't just fixed quickly and then become an issue later on. I got into politics, as I say, back in 2019. I was elected on the first time of standing. It was a really proud moment for me and my family. And I suppose what put the fire in my belly to be a local politician is to change things. So ultimately what I want to do is work incredibly hard today to set of strong foundations for our children, grandchildren and future generations to enjoy. And that's what politicians should be about. They should be about, you know, working with the local community groups, councils and any other organisation and stakeholders to really make our area as good as it possibly can and bring as much funding in as possible to see the improvements that we need. My daughter was born with various disabilities and she had open heart surgery in 2018, and at that time I saw how dysfunctional the NHS was, and since then she hasn't received the support that she needs. So I really have a desire to make sure that we fix our NHS. I'm not convinced that it's all about giving it, you know, endless amounts of cash. It's also about making sure we're using digitalisation and we're really reforming the NHS and other public services to make sure that they're running better, but also as working as a council officer, as a senior manager in a neighbouring local authority in environmental services. I see the pressures and I feel the pressures that public services are facing at the moment. So I really want to contribute to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure that the services that we all rely on are in a working order and delivering clean and safe streets and sustainable you know, houses through the planning applications. We need to make sure that we are working with developers to make sure that they are building the green homes of the future. Now, I am, as I say, local. I live in Kidderminster. I was born here, and unfortunately your other local candidates aren't all from within this constituency. Your Conservative, Labour and Reform candidates live many miles from the heart of our constituency. And although that might not perhaps be of concern to you, for me, I really strongly believe that in order to serve this constituency, you should live in it and you should be able to you know, be extremely visible. So when you're going about your day-to-day life, whether it be filling up the car, putting a car on charge, doing your daily shop, doing the school run, you should be able to speak to people and really hear what is going on and what is important to local people. For far too long, the mainstream political parties have sat in rooms, and I've been there, and they've listed off a load of things that they think are important to you, but actually they're not. The only way we'll find out what's important, what we need to prioritise and what we need to fix, is by spending time knocking on people's doors. And over the last few months and years, I've spent hours and hours and hours knocking thousands and thousands of doors, including over the last few weeks, to really understand what is important to local people. And that's what I'm all about: speaking to people, being approachable, picking up the phone, answering emails. And I've received hundreds of them since this general election was called, and every single one of them will tell you that I've responded within just a few hours, and I'm assisting many of those people today. Some of them are very quick fixes and quick responses and reporting things like lights out, etc. But there are some more complex issues that I'll need to work on in the coming weeks. I've received so much support. I've been somewhat overwhelmed with the support that I've received. It's been really great. I've spoken to people on the doorstep, hundreds of people, you know, independent candidates, although we did have an independent MP several years ago in Dr. Richard Taylor, and whilst I'm on that topic, I'm delighted that Dr. Richard Taylor endorses a campaign to see an independent elected in this constituency once more. But I've been really overwhelmed and you know, happy to receive all the positive feedback that I've been receiving. You know, independents are unfortunately underdogs. Everybody will tell you that, well, you've got to vote Labour or you've got to vote Tory because they're the only people that can win. Anybody on the ballot paper can win as long as enough people vote for them. Just running very quickly through some of the things that I've put out on my leaflet, and you should all be receiving one of these if you haven't already. I ordered 55,000 of these, and they're all going out throughout the constituency of Wyre Forest. More services at Kidderminster Hospital. I'd love there to be an A&E there. I've campaigned on that in the past, but that's a really complex and expensive solution. But with the pressure on Worcester and other hospitals within the county, it's something that I will at least be brave enough to ask the question on. You know, unfortunately, the Labour Party were part of an Empower at the time that Kidderminster Hospital was downgraded. And Kidderminster locally, unfortunately, Kidderminster Labour locally are too scared to talk about Kidderminster Hospital because they don't want to regurgitate that conversation. But for me, I'm going to be brave enough and bold enough to get people into the room if I'm elected and have that conversation. And if nothing else, we need more services at Kidderminster Hospital. I'm sick and tired of hearing, particularly from the elderly in my political ward of Blightbrook and Hadley South, telling me that they've got to travel to Worcester one week, then Redditch the other, but they don't drive, they're living in poverty, they can't get there. So we really need to make sure that all of the key services that we need are here in our constituency and at Kidderminster Hospital. And that way we can make sure that people are actually attending their appointments and they're not missing them. Immigration, I'm not saying in my leaflet or anywhere else that immigration needs to be banned. Of course there's a place for immigration, but let's face it, millions of people want to come into our country and we simply cannot allow that to happen. What we need to do is make sure that we understand where our employment gaps are and our skills gaps are and bring people into the country once they've applied to fill those gaps and ultimately support our economy. Of course, we need to make sure that we're supporting and giving space to people that are fleeing persecution, and I'm absolutely not against that. But for me, every country in the world, every country that's a safe country needs to be playing a part in that and making sure that they're doing the same as us. But no longer can we just simply have open borders. We need to have secure borders and pick who is coming into our country. And I think that's the best way to approach immigration. We need to process people quickly, and we need to make sure that we are choosing the people who apply to come to this country, making sure that we've done all the checks and balances before people actually come here. We need to be tough on crime. I said to you earlier that I've worked in the police. You know, we've seen a real downgrade of policing over the last few years. We need to make sure that we get bobbies on the beat. Again, we have proper neighbourhood policing in place, and we have a real focus on community. So, you know, members of the public going to local meetings, having walkabouts with their local bobby, and making sure that when somebody commits crime, the law comes down on them like a ton of bricks, and they go to prison if it's obviously necessary for the offence that they've committed. We need to make sure that the sentencing and the criminal justice system in our country is robust and strong enough to put people off conducting crime in the first place. And whilst I'm on that, what those individuals that do commit crime, we need to make sure that we get them work, and we need to make sure that we put them through programs to make sure that they're given skills to actually contribute to the economy, rather than just finding themselves in this circle of constantly committing crime to get by or fund a drugs habit, etc. I believe that we shouldn't be building on the green belt. You've told me that loudly and clearly over the last few weeks, months and years. Sites like this, just on the edge of Kidderminster, can never ever be built on, in my opinion. They're brownfield sites, there are more suitable sites. We're already seeing lots of building in Kidderminster, Stourport and Bewdley. We need to make sure that we're really sensible about where we are building houses, and we need to make sure that we are liaising with the financial sector to make it easier for people to buy houses. You know, people are spending £1,000 a month for a 3-bed here in Wyre Forest at the moment. Affordability is not an issue, but what we need to do is make sure that we're working with mortgage lenders to encourage them to bring down the amount of deposit that's required, because frankly, unless you've got somebody in your family that is has a spare 20 grand knocking around and they're going to give you that for a deposit, people are not going to get on the housing ladder. I was afforded the opportunity to get onto the housing ladder, and I want everybody to be afforded the same opportunities moving forward. I want our streets to be clean. I want us to be have a cleaner constituency. I want us to take pride in our town centres. I want us to work with volunteer groups, etc., to really make our area look better and the streets scene be really impressive to visitors, but more importantly to people that live here. We need to be greener. We need to be thinking seriously about the climate emergency. You know, we can't just keep kicking it into the long grass. We need to put a plan in place to deal with that right now and allow residents in Wyre Forest constituency to actually contribute effectively. Everything doesn't necessarily have to cost the earth. You know, some practical things that you can do at home to help with that, but also, you know, government need to intervene and help with things like, you know, the scrappage scheme that we have seen historically, to enable people to actually afford to transition from a petrol or a diesel car into an electric car. Steps like this need to be taken to make sure that we are moving quickly and at pace to make sure that we're doing everything that we can and encouraging everybody else throughout the world to be doing the same, because we can't just do it all on our own. We need to make sure that we're improving our public services. We all rely on public services. Councils have very little funding. They're finding it incredibly difficult. The NHS, policing, all of these things, local bus routes are woefully insufficient. Libraries are being closed down, police stations are being closed down. We need to make sure we're finding a balance to both reform and properly fund public services, because, as I said earlier, we all rely on public services, and we need to make sure that we're giving people in our constituency all of the quality public services that they had previously. And the final point is putting our children, working people and the elderly first. We need to make sure that we're giving our children the tools and the education and the protection that they need to have long and fulfilling lives. And we need to make sure that we are supporting the vulnerable and the disabled, and making sure that they have safe spaces. We are supporting them. They are given the support that they need in terms of whether that be physio, speech and language therapy, practical support from other NHS services. We need to be making sure that people who are vulnerable in our constituency are heard and are looked after, and that's really, really important to me. Making sure that the elderly, they've served our country all of their lives, paid in lots of money into the kitty, as it were, and we need to make sure that we're supporting them certainly through the cost of living. And not only supporting the elderly through the cost of living, we need to be doing practical things to support everybody. Everybody is feeling the effects of the cost of living crisis, and I absolutely want to go to Westminster and advocate to make sure that we're making things better. But what I want to do in summary is bring as much funding into Wyre Forest as possible, be the strong independent voice that tells people that want to put things like quarries here to back off, and really make sure that I'm being visible, I'm contactable, I'm speaking to people, I'm holding regular surgeries to understand what you want from Westminster, and make sure that I go to Westminster and do everything that I can to bring finance, etc., and support from government back into the Wyre Forest. I didn't anticipate that this video would be so long, and I thank you for those of you that have bared with me and followed it through to the end. It's coming up to 15 minutes now, and I thank you very much for the time. It's been really great getting to know so many people over recent weeks, and I just wanted to finish by stressing the point that everybody will tell you to tactically vote Tory, vote Labour, though the only two that can win, but everybody can win. Every person that is on the ballot paper can win. We had an independent candidate that turned into an MP in Dr. Richard Taylor before. We can have it again. The votes haven't been fully cast yet. If you want somebody that's truly local, full of energy, full of passion, and wants the very best and will fight for Wyre Forest, vote for Leigh Whitehouse on Thursday, the 4th of July. And once again, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.